After a brief tutorial where everyone I know and love dies horribly, I start out by picking up an ally in a tavern. Then, while trying to talk to a store owner, accidentally interact with a passing guard, without knowing that this city will arrest you on sight and get thrown in jail. Lose that ally, who is no longer at the tavern. Having nowhere to go alone, I go to the only other place I am allowed to on the map, another tavern, and find another ally. This time, being careful not to talk to random people who might toss me in jail, take the city's ship. A cutscene happens during this ship ride, and I lose that second ally. No battles have happened during this time, but don't worry, it gets worse. Romancing Saga Minstrel Song is a remaster of a PS2 game, which is a remake of a Super Nintendo game. This is an open world where you can do anything you want, which means you need to play it exactly as intended and be aware of all the obscure quirks and hidden features of the game. Remember when the industry made a big push for 3D but wasn't ready for it? So we got this transition generation where most games look drastically worse than the titles from the previous gen? This game is the poster child for that era. Dungeons have limited splotchy textures, characters use the giant head cheat mod, and monsters at least look cool if you can tell what they look like at all. Additionally, cinematic cutscenes have built-in frame stutter. They look like they would have felt dated before cinematic cutscenes even existed. But don't worry, it gets worse, because the PS2 had a breakthrough feature that greatly benefited 3D games: analog stick camera control. This incredible technology was, of course, not used for this game. You have zero camera control. Furniture causes the camera to bob, jolt, and flick at its own whim. I want to point out the PS2 analog controller was specifically designed to avoid this very problem in 3D games. I also want to point out this is a remaster, so they had a second chance to fix this. The uncontrolled camera makes some areas painful to navigate, as the camera changes perspectives on its own. You can turn a corner only to have the camera flip to reverse where you're facing, causing you to run back the way you came. There's few landmarks or defining features to help you navigate, and it can become a nightmare. The cherry on top, most areas have multiple exit points. And as barren as the dungeons are, the UI is the opposite. Combat UI is so intrusive, it is startling. And of course, combat includes constant camera jump cuts, which I have to give them some credit. Messing up the camera in both exploration and combat is a rare feat few games have managed. Camera aside, the visual style might appeal to some. When it comes to the gameplay mechanics, this game is so unintuitive, I'm going to explain, and it will still not make sense. This game was described as being an open world sandbox with little hand-holding. But that's not entirely correct. Actually, that's not remotely correct. It is true that you are not told what to do, but this should not be mistaken with the idea of being able to do what you want and having no restrictions or rules. The reality is this game has very specific rules and expectations for what you will do. You just don't know it. Think about it like being told to solve a crossword puzzle, but the twist is you don't get any of the hints. After the tutorial killed everyone I knew and I lost 2 more allies to jail and ship sailing, I ended up picking up a quest and another ally. Questing is the game's staple. You pick one up, then generally go to a combat area to finish it. Dungeons are packed with enemies that will spot you, are faster than you, and there is no invulnerability grace period between fights, which basically means that in most areas, you will have to fight everything for the quest. But hey, fighting is a JRPG staple, so that's fine. There's nothing wrong with fighting lots of battles. And combat felt pretty standard. There are no levels, but you gain stats and learn skills during fights. You regain health after battles. Skills use weapon durability, and magic or dying costs you life points. You also pick out a few secondary skills like disarm traps or unlock chests, but they have limited uses too. If you're mid-quest and run low, you will have to return to town, rest at an inn, and return, which respawns enemies, and due to branching paths, is pretty common to need to take a few trips to fully explore a dungeon. Pause. I've already made a critical error. A mistake so grave that it would snowball into an unplayable mess. Did you spot it? No. It will become clear soon. A solid 15 to 20 hours in, About 80% through the game, I came to a boss, an undead squid, who constantly one-shot my party. I gave up on my first playthrough on this boss. I had found zero joy and was ready to call this the worst PS2 RPG I've ever played. However, to flesh out this review, I decided to learn a little bit about the invisible mechanics behind the game, and I want to make this clear. I reached this exact same boss on my second playthrough. I stomped it like it was a joke. So what did I do wrong? What mistake did I make that ruined the game entirely? I fought enemies. I had been fighting and killing enemies, which is the worst possible thing you can do. My second playthrough's key strategic change. I ran from every single battle. I did everything I could to not fight anything that allowed me to flee. I want to make it clear, I am not joking. How on earth does that work? Basically, the game scales based on event rank. Event rank is, as you may have guessed, not related at all to events or quests. It advances based on battles fought. The game advances through stages, spawns harder foes, and very importantly enables or disables quests. The point of the game is to do as many quests as possible for items, and two vital things you barely get any of from anything else: money and jewels, which let you buy gear and class levels in weapons, magic, and skills. Quests are triggered in ultra-specific ways, so every event rank, I would go to every town and talk to everyone to try and trigger quests. Now, seeking the trigger NPC that advances the story is a common staple of old RPGs before we got yellow paint and markers. But imagine if instead of having to scour a town to advance the plot, you need to scour the entire game. Every level. And if you are thinking doing quests that neurotically sounds crazy, running from all battles sounds awful, I want to repeat, this not only worked, this had me in better gear by 20% into the game than I had 80% into the game the first time. The difference was that staggering. Cool aspects of the game like skill customization and combining attacks from the party were overshadowed by obnoxious secret systems. This game has New Game Plus and 8 characters, so if you do enjoy it, you can get a lot from it. However, you'll have done most of the quests in your first playthrough, and will have to repeat them every single time. I dislike this game. Yes, it did get better after about 30 hours, but between the obtuse systems and too much effort before starting to enjoy it, I can recommend it to nobody. Romancing Saga, Minstrel Song Remastered earns a 5 out of 10.